I'm Dr. Gary Steward, history professor and dean of the School of Humanities and Social Sciences at Colorado Christian University. Edmund Burke's Reflections on the Revolution in France is one of the most important texts in the history of political conservatism. One could argue that modern political conservatism began with Burke, and with this text in particular. Burke was a member of the British Parliament from 1765 to 1794. His speeches in the House of Commons brought him early acclaim and were noted for their logical brilliance and eloquence. As a member of the Whig Party, Burke consistently opposed the policies of King George III and his ministers in what would result in the American War for Independence. He stood with the American patriots against a growing absolutism that threatened the traditional rights and liberties of the British colonists. Burke's attitude toward the French Revolution, however, would be markedly different. His Reflections on the Revolution in France was published in London in November of 1790, a little more than a year after the beginning of the French Revolution. It was an instant bestseller, selling 13,000 copies within the first 5 weeks. Burke was not a political philosopher in the traditional sense or a theorist, but a statesman and a pamphleteer. With the logic of Aristotle and the rhetorical power of a Cicero, Burke laid bare the fundamental errors of the revolutionaries in France with brilliant insight. Ultimately, a revolution based on the Enlightenment approach of the French philosophes would fail, he predicted, because of their abandonment of the Christian teaching of the human condition. Burke understood that individuals are fallen and complex, and he would assert that religion is the basis of civil society. Trying to reorganize society around secular visions of human perfectibility and simplistic ideological slogans like equality, liberty, and fraternity would end in disaster. As far as the French were concerned, Burke would sadly be proven right, and he would be proven right again in the political revolutions of the 20th century. Burke understood in an almost prescient way how rigid adherence to a humanistic ideology can drive people into acts of self-justified violence. Against ideological revolutions, Burke believed that political and social change should advance slowly, guided by prudential wisdom, humility, and experience. Participants in any human society should have respect for the laws, traditions, customs, and institutions they have received, for these all contain a measure of accrued wisdom gifted to us by those who've gone before us. Burke's Reflections on the Revolution in France is very important for the times we live in today, where short-sighted devotion to sound bites and slogans dominates so much of our political discourse. Reading Burke today is wonderfully refreshing, and there's much practical wisdom and insight to be drawn from this important volume.